told you many times that I would love the pressure to compete for title, but we are not ready for many reasons. One of the reasons why is because we cannot concede the goal we concede and open the game and give them the chance to take point here.
Well, I've heard this a dozen times in the last few weeks, but to be perfectly honest, do you think Chelsea are still not in the title race? Because they have completely forgotten what it feels like to lose. 10 games without defeat in all competition and 8 wins in the last 2 months. And if you want to extend that even further, they haven't lost a Premier League game since the end of October when they lost to Liverpool. And even recently, Reds coach Arne Slot admitted that this was their toughest game of 2024-25 so far. So yeah, you can be sure that Maresca is using these words to ease the pressure, just like Pep Guardiola does from time to time. After all, when the coach of a team that has beaten Real Madrid and Man City in the space of 4 days says things like that, you can certainly smile and be proud of a job well done. 34 points in 16 games and the best attack in the league. That is something nobody at Chelsea expected at the start of the season. But you know what's the sweetest part of all? Let me ask you a question. Have you seen Chelsea's fixture list for the next month and a half? Let's leave aside the Conference League games. After the win over Brentford, the Blues have away games at Ipswich and Crystal Palace, as well as Fulham, Bournemouth and Wolves at home in the next 6 match days. So if Chelsea manage to get 18 points in this period, I'm sure they'll be in pole position for the title, possibly even overtaking Liverpool in the table. But now let's calm down and focus on what makes Maresca so special. The answer is Guardiola. The Catalan may be a little mad and even desperate at the moment with those bruises on his head and Man City's devastating form, but there's no denying that he's created a class manager in the making. But if we go back in time, it wasn't like that at the start of the season. Following the departure of Mauricio Pochettino, many questioned whether Maresca would be able to cope with the pressure at Chelsea, or will he become another failure in the Todd Boehly era? On the one hand, Maresca had just won the championship with Leicester, but in the last 3 months of the 2023-24 season, the Foxes were in terrible form. They won just 6 of their last 14 games and were on the verge of dropping out of first place. In the end, they won promotion, but his reputation was badly damaged. And after 6 wins in the last 14 games of your previous job, you go to one of the biggest clubs in Europe. Yeah, you can definitely imagine the pressure. But now, 6 months on, it's clear that Maresca is implementing his tactical knowledge from his time as Guardiola's assistant. The pair won the Premier League together in 2022-23 before Maresca took over at Leicester the following season, 2023-24. And now you can see the interesting sequence. He won the title in 2 successive seasons, so could this year potentially be his lucky number 3? And looking at Maresca's tactics, the area that has improved the most from last season is attack. So far, Chelsea has the Premier League's most prolific attack, scoring 37 goals in the first 16 games of the season, an average of 2.3 goals per game in 2024-25. Most impressively of all, they were also very good in attack last season, finishing the game with 77 goals in 38 games, averaging around 2 goals per game. Well, now, without even reaching the halfway point of the season, Chelsea have improved massively. We will get into the individual improvements later in the video, narrowing down the 5 key things that make Chelsea so good, but overall, they are now playing as a unit, playing for the badge, and everyone is there for his teammates. That feeling seemed to have disappeared since the departure of Thomas Tuchel, but now it's back for the first time in 3 seasons. It's too early to say whether Maresca has the potential to overtake Tuchel as the Chelsea legend, but he is certainly impressing with some key tactical moves up his sleeve. Take the Tottenham game, for example. Yes, everyone focused on the massive second-half performance as Chelsea staged a comeback for the ages at one of the toughest stadiums in England, but few noticed the magic that Maresca brought to the table. On paper, one of the most fundamental roles in Maresca ball is that of the 2 fullbacks. Whether it's Cucurella, Malo Gusto or Reece James, Maresca's fullbacks must invert in midfield to help in the build-up. So the common tactic is this. The fullback drops into midfield to form a double pivot with Caicedo or Lavia, and this allows Enzo Fernández to push higher up the pitch. But against Spurs, we saw something different. Caicedo started as a fullback. Yes, that's right, Gusto was left on the bench. That gave Maresca more stability in midfield to deal with Tottenham's midfield of Kulusevski, Bissouma and Heung-min Son, who dropped deep into midfield to receive the ball. Although Chelsea conceded twice in that period, both as a result of Cucurella slipping on the pitch, the experiment proved successful. At half-time, the team reverted to their usual formation, with Malo Gusto at full-back, and Chelsea turned the game around to win 4-3. Now, before we reveal the 5 key ingredients that changed Chelsea so much in such a short time, please, if you don't mind, take 5 seconds to subscribe to our channel. For position number 1, the Chelsea setup begins and ends with a ball-playing goalkeeper, so Robert Sanchez definitely deserves a mention. But it's not just him, CC is the other man who's performing brilliantly. Yes, Sanchez is the undisputed first choice in the Premier League, but the Dane is the one playing in the cup competitions, the Conference League, the EFL Cup, and most possibly the FA Cup in January. When it comes to Sanchez, he is not only Chelsea's number 1, but he is also the top goalkeeper in the league in terms of save percentage, 73.5%, ahead of Arsenal's David Raya and Liverpool's Kumin Kelleher, who are both on 72.7%. In defence, we talked about the inverted fullback. Maresca loves to have an extra body in midfield, just like his master Guardiola does every season. We saw Cancelo do this in his prime, we saw John Stones invert, and even now with Rico Lewis. In Maresca's setup, those guys are Cucurella and Malo Gusto. But since we've already talked about the right side, let's discuss the role of Cucurella. As you may have noticed, there's a lot of competition between Malo Gusto and Reece James at right back, when James is fit of course. At left back though, Cucurella simply doesn't have any competition. Not because there aren't any other left backs in the team. No, you may have forgotten about Ben Chilwell, he is still in the team, but he was heavily dismissed by Maresca at the start of the season. So yes, if you roll back the clocks, Cucurella was criticised in his first and second seasons at Stamford Bridge, but he has now become an indispensable asset for Maresca, simply because his inverting ability, his play on the ball and his work rate are at a very, very high level. Next up, the number 8, a role that falls to Enzo Fernández. And here we need to talk a lot about him because the improvement in his attacking contributions has been truly game-changing for Chelsea. His role is simple but vital. When the fullback forms a double pivot with Caicedo, Enzo pushes higher up the pitch and actively participates in sharpening the attack with a pass behind the defence or a long-range shot. And it's safe to say that he is fabulous in both departments. But here is the shocker. Enzo has been Chelsea's most prolific player in the last month, beating even the top 2 attackers, Palmer and Nicholas Jackson. The Argentine has made 10 goal contributions in all competitions, including a goal or an assist in each of his last 6 league games. The 4th ingredient is the wide wingers. It would be hard to say who Chelsea's 2 most essential wingers are, but based on minutes played, they are Pedro Neto and Noni Madueke. I love Jadon Sancho and would like to see more from him, but so far, the other 2 have just shown a bit more. The idea with Chelsea's wingers is to make the pitch as wide as possible. They hug the touchline, and when they receive the ball, they begin to shrink the opposition. The trick is that Madueke and Neto are 2 different types of wide wingers. The former likes to go one-on-one with defenders using his immense pace, while Neto is the most unpredictable and undoubtedly the better of the 2 when it comes to using his weak foot. His trademark is the cross to the far post, something we've seen dozens of times this season. And of course, the sweetest of all, Cole Palmer. About a month ago, I made a video about his dip in form. You can find it in the description. He was indeed in a bad situation, but his last 4 games, he has 4 goals and an assist, suggesting that he is ready for the most important part of the season. His role arguably the most fundamental in the whole team. Remember when I told you that Enzo needs to get up high and help the attack? Well, he is Palmer's right-hand man in that area. Cole is the most skillful of the 2, and it is his responsibility to find those gaps in the opposition's defence to play a through ball or find someone at the back post. So, as much as we love Chelsea's form, there is still a long way to go for them to really crush the competition and win the Prem. But as we said, if they can go unbeaten between now and the end of January, the odds are in their favour to be crowned champions. Now, if you enjoyed that one, subscribe to the channel to get the latest notifications of our next videos. Or if you want to watch more from us, just check some of the latest uploads. I'll see you there.